If you're injured and you've never actually worked with an injury lawyer, you may be wondering what are the best ways or the best things that I can do to work with an injury lawyer in a way that's best for me and that it works out best for the case. Or even if you are injured and you have worked with an injury lawyer before, you may actually not really have thought of these things. And so you may just think that the way that that other law firm did it or the way that you behaved in that process is the best way to do it. And so what are the best ways to work with an injury lawyer if you're injured and you're pursuing a claim? Well, first, you want to be prepared. So you want to make sure that you have all the evidence that's within your control. So if you have the photos, you want to make sure you know where they're at and you can provide it to the lawyer when you meet. If you have your insurance information, the other driver's insurance information, if this is a car accident case, you want to make sure that paperwork is ready to go. If you know who the witnesses are, you want to make sure you know what their names are, what their phone numbers are, and you want to have that ready to provide to a lawyer so that they can get working on the case as soon as possible. Now, obviously, they have things that they have to do as well to get the case moving forward, but to the extent that you have those things readily available, it's going to make the job easier and it's going to make things faster. The other thing is you want to be able to have a real conversation with your lawyer. So you want to have a relationship with your personal injury lawyer where you feel like you can tell them everything about the case. And while there will be objective judgment in a sense, that the lawyer should be telling you like, hey, this is a bad fact for the case, or that's a good fact for the case, or this is what this means. And sometimes that'll be a bad thing and sometimes that'll be a good thing. And the lawyer should be able to do that, because if the lawyer's not doing that for you, they're doing you a disservice, because you actually may not really know what's bad and what's good for the case. The reality is that even though those conversations are going to be happening, it should really be a no judgment zone from a personal perspective, right? You have to be able to feel that no matter what you've done, that the lawyer's not going to be judging you as a person. They're not going to think you're a bad person, or you should have done that, or they would never do that, or anything like that. The amount of judgment involved, it's really strictly only a professional judgment as it relates to what that means for the case. The other thing that you want to be able to do when working for an injury lawyer is you want to be able to listen to their advice. You don't have to agree, but you have to listen. And that's particularly important because you may have had a case before, but if you had a case before, your injury lawyer, if you pick a good one, we would have done hundreds or thousands of cases before. So your experience in the one case is not really going to be representative of the universe of personal injury cases and how the system works. How it worked for you in that one case doesn't really mean much. It just means that one time things worked out that one way. It doesn't mean that's the best way to do it. It does not mean that because you got advice to do it that way, then that advice to do it the opposite way now is wrong. It really doesn't mean much. And so if you don't listen to your injury lawyer, you're going to find yourself giving up the value that the lawyer gives you, because part of what you pay for when you hire us, when you hire an injury lawyer, is you pay for our experience. So when we take a fee on a case, our contingency fee, really that's in exchange for providing you the value of our experience to get you the best result possible. And so if you find yourself not listening to your lawyer, if you find yourself saying, I don't care, like, yeah, they're telling me that, but I'm going to do the complete opposite, what you're essentially doing is lighting your money on fire, because you're going to pay a contingency fee at the end of the case, but you're actually not listening to the lawyer's advice and taking advantage of their experience, which is essentially what you're paying for. Not only that, but at the end of the day, if you have a good lawyer, they're giving you good advice. If you disregard that advice, ultimately what's going to happen is your case is going to be worth less at the end of the day, because you're disregarding the lawyer's advice, and the lawyer's advice is intended to maximize the value of your case. So if you don't do that, then you're going to be putting yourself in a bad spot really for no reason. And then the last thing you want to do when working with a personal injury lawyer is you want to understand and you want to know that at the end of the day, you make the final decision as to whether you settle the case, whether you try the case, or really what happens with the case. So while you're listening to the lawyer's advice, and the lawyer may tell you, I think this amount of money is fair and it's reasonable based on my experience, the lawyer is not the one that's living with the pain that you're suffering. The lawyer is not the one that has the changes in the life that you've suffered. And so even though reasonably, based on experience, that amount of money is fair value for the case, you may find yourself saying, okay, I understand, but I don't think that's enough for me. I don't think that's enough for what happened to me, and I want to go get more, or I want to go try the case, or whatever the case may be. And then going hand in hand with that, you also have to understand early on, you have to know early on that the lawyer that you select for your personal injury case has actually tried cases before and is willing to try cases, which that's the minority of us injury lawyers. Most injury lawyers, they don't really want to talk about that. Let's put it that way. Because they don't try cases, because they rather settle the cases. And if the case comes to get tried, they don't really have the tools or the skills to take it that far. And so you want to know early on, is this law firm that I've selected able and willing to try my case if we have to, or is this a law firm that can only take me to settlement, and if it doesn't settle, then I have to go somewhere else? And the reason you want to know that when working with an injury lawyer is because you have to know if this is a case that you're going to settle no matter what, because if that's the firm that you chose, that they're not going to be able to try your case, then at some point the insurance company is going to say, this is the most we're ever going to pay you unless you go try the case. And that firm is going to say to you, this is the best we can do because we don't try cases, right? And so you have to know that ahead of time before you enter into the relationship with the firm, because that may not be what you want to do. You may want somebody who, when it comes down to it, the insurance company says this is the most we're ever going to do unless you try the case. But the law firm's going to say, okay, then we're going to go try the case because we can, because we have the skills and the people and the systems in the experience to get it done. So those are some things that you have to keep in mind when working with an injury lawyer, because it will help you in establishing that relationship and in actually seeing it through that to the end, and that you get the best compensation possible.